All right. Part two, Nimrod. All right. And Abram. All right. Um, so yeah, there's powers that want to get rid of the chosen seed, but we'll always be here and after. All right. Chapter 4 concerning the Tower of Babylon and the confusion of tongues or languages. I'm in the Antiquities of the Jews, book 1, chapter 4, paragraph 2. No, paragraph 1. It says, Now the sons of Noah were three. Noah only had three sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, born 100 years before the deluge, the flood. These first of all descended from the mountains into the plains and fixed their habitations there, and persuaded others who were greatly afraid of the lower grounds on a reason of the floods, and so were very lofty, to come down from the higher place, to venture to follow their examples. Now, the plain in which they first dwelt lived was called Shinar. All right. God also the Most High also commanded them to send colonies abroad everywhere for the thorough peopling of the earth, the populating of the earth, that they might not uh, raise seditions among themselves, wars, fight among themselves, but might cultivate, um, I'm sorry, that they might not raise seditions among themselves, and but might cultivate a great part of the earth and enjoy its fruits after a plentiful way. But they were so ill instructed that they did not obey the Most High. Okay, for which reason they fell into calamities. They fell into uh, disasters, ruin, and were made sensible by experience and of what sin they had been guilty. For when they flourished with a numerous youth, when they was grown, they grew with a numerous youth. The Most High admonished them again to send out colonies. They got so enormous. He said, send out more colonies, spread out tribes. But they imagining the prosperity they enjoyed. Okay, so they were thinking about the success they enjoyed and derived from the favor, uh, was not derived from the favor of the Most High, but supposing that their own power was the proper cause of the plentiful condition. They thought that they did it all. They thought it was them doing all the work. Um, so by their own power was the proper cause of the plentiful condition they were in, and did not obey him. They stopped obeying the Most High because they were advancing, had technology. They felt that they was doing well themselves. But no, they added to this their disobedience to the divine will and the suspicion that they were therefore ordered to send out separate colonies, that being divided asunder in half, they might the more easily be oppressed. Now, it was Nimrod Getting back to him who excited them. He encouraged them to such affront and contempt of the Most High. All right. He was the grandson of Ham, the son of Noah, and a bold man, and a great and of great strength of hand, great strength of hand. He persuaded them, he encouraged them not to ascribe it to God. So he encouraged them to not say that it was the Most High or to praise the Most High. Don't give him the glory as if it was through his way, they were happy. But to believe that it was their own courage, bravery, valiancy, which procured that happiness. He also gradually changed the government into tyranny, seeing no other way of turning men from the fear of the Most High. So men didn't have fear of the Most High, but he had to turn his government into tyranny, seeing no other way to change men from the fear of the Most High. All right. But to bring them into a constant dependency upon his power. A what? A constant dependency upon his power, his strength. That's what government wants you to believe, that you have to depend on them. All right. Militaries, CDCs, presidents, all of that type of junk. All right. So I'm going to quickly get a precept. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Most High is the beginning of knowledge, but fools like Nimrod and the people that followed Nimrod despise wisdom and instruction. All right? Despise wisdom and instruction. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. Oh. And I'll read 10. It says, my son, if sinners entice you, consent you not. If they say, come on, let's rebel against the Most High, consent you not. Don't go with them. All right? Go the other way. All right, so now, okay, so he also gradually changed the government into tyranny, seeing no other way to turn men from the fear of Ahia, but to bring them into a constant dependency upon his power. He also said he would be revenged on the Most High. Okay. He said also he would be revenged on the highest. Okay. The scripture said, don't trust in no man. That they were trusting in upon his power. Mm-mm. All right. And he also said he would be revenged on God. Don't that on Yah? Don't that sound like kind of what the devil, Satan, Lucifer was saying when he got kicked out, and he said, I'll be like the Most High, I set my throne amongst the stars, my nest amongst the stars. I'll be omnipotent like the Most High, and all that jazz. Mm-mm-mm. You'll be thrown down. All right. Pride becomes before a fall. So it says, if he should have a mind to drown the world again. So he's also said he would be revenged on the Most High. And if he should have a mind to drown the world again, and for that he would build a tower too high. So he was saying, well, I'll just build something so high that, or I'll just, if the Most High gonna blow this earth up, I'm just gonna go out in outer space. I'm gonna just try to live forever. I'm gonna freeze my body. I got all this money. I can make myself a robot. See all these things get puffed up in the head. Okay, so again, he's also said he would be revenged on the Most High if he should have in mind to drown the world again. For that he would build a tower too high for the waters to be able to reach. So he said, you ain't gonna be able to do a flood, and that he would avenge himself on the Most High for destroying their forefathers. He was mad that the Most High destroyed his forefathers. But, you know, everything's is the Most High, even the wicked for the wicked day. All right, who can make straight what the Most High made crooked? Does God love everybody? No. This man right here is over here like, you don't love everybody. You flooded the earth. You killed my forefathers. You see? He said, I'm gonna avenge myself on him. That'll never happen. So anyway, um, for destroying their forefathers. Now the multitude, the crowd, were very ready to follow the determination of Nimrod and to esteem, encourage it a piece of cowardice. You would be a coward to submit to the Most High. So then you have people, oh, you're a coward. You believe in the Most High. You believe in the Word of God. You're a coward to submit to the Most High. And they built a tower. They built a what? A tower. And neither sparing any pains nor being in any degree negligent about the work. And by reason of the multitude, the crowd of hands employed in it, it grew very high, sooner than anyone expected. But the thickness of it was so great, and it was so strongly built, that thereby its great height seemed upon the view to be less than it really was. It was built of burnt brick, cemented together with mortar made of bitumen, that it might not be liable to admit water. When the Most High saw that they acted so madly crazy, he did not resolve to destroy them completely, since they were not growing wiser by the destruction of the former sinners. The Most High was like, I just flooded the earth. Y'all ain't even getting smarter or wiser to obey me. It's like we getting dumber and dumber. The more uh, we get chastised or trialed or disciplined. But see, he loves the ones that he loves, he disciplines, he chastised. But he said, it says here when Yah saw, Ahayah saw that they acted so madly, he did not resolve. That means he didn't answer to destroy them utterly. And since they were not growing wiser, smarter, by the destruction of the former sinners. Okay? The former sinners. God don't love the sin and the sinner. He don't love the sinners. Okay? We supposed to grow wiser by the destruction of sinners. We supposed to wake up because it could be us. This is why hell has enlarged itself. All right? There's a way that seems right to a man, that way leads to death. And straight and narrow is the path of righteousness, and the broad way, that's what I call it, the broad way, or you know, is the way that leads to death. All right, so uh, the script, but it says But he caused a tumult among them. He caused a noise among them by producing in them diverse languages. He did what? He caused a tumult among them by producing, creating in them diverse languages. It says, it don't say tongues, it says diverse languages. That means tongues, all right? But diverse languages, all right? And causing that through the multitude of those languages, this is why people are bilingual, that they should not be able to understand one another. This is why you need an interpreter, all right? So let's go back. The Most High caused tumult, that means confusion, babble among them by producing in them different tongues, languages, and causing that through the multitude, the crowd of those tongues, languages, that they should not be able to understand one another. And they should not be able to understand one another. The place wherein they built the tower is now called Babylon. Babylon, because of the confusion of that language, which they readily understood before. And for the Hebrews, uh, mean definition by the word Babel, confusion. The Sibyl also makes mention of this tower and of the confusion of the language. And when she says this, when all men were of one language, some of them built a high tower as if they would thereby rise up to heaven, to the sky. But the gods sent storms, all right, of wind and overthrew the tower and gave everyone his peculiar language. And for this reason, it was that the city was called Babylon. But we know it was only the Most High. But as to the plain of Shinar in the country of Babylonia, Hestus mentions it when he says this: such of the priests as were saved took the sacred vessels of Jupiter, Enlil, and came to Shinar of Babylonia. All right. So that's the end on that. Uh, Chapter 5, of what manner the posterity, the children of Noah, sent out colonies and populated the whole earth. All right. After this, they were dispersed abroad on the reason of their languages and went out by colonies everywhere. And each colony took possession of that land, which the light upon and on which they light upon and onto which the Most High led them, so that the whole earth, so the whole continent was filled with them, both the inland and maritime countries. There were some also who passed over the sea in ships, some that passed over the sea in ships and inhabited the islands. And some of those nations do still retain the denominations which were given them by their first founders, but some have lost them also, and some have only admitted certain changes in them, that they might be the more intelligible to the population. And they were the Greeks, who became the authors of such mutations, changes. For when in after ages they grew potent, strong, they claimed to themselves the glory of history, antiquity, giving names to the nations, the people that sounded well in Greek, that they might be better understood among themselves, and setting agreeable forms of government over them, as if they were a people derived from themselves. Okay, so a lot of things was changed there, but I want to continue, and I want to continue with Abram. All right. All right. So now Abram, having a son of his own, adopted Lot, having no son of his own, adopted Lot, his brother Haran's son, and his wife Sarai's brother. And he left the land of Chaldea when he was 75 years old. And at the command of the Most High, he went into Canaan. And therein he lived himself and left it to his posterity. He was a person of great sagacity, wisdom, both for understanding all things and persuading his hearers, and not mistaken in his opinions, for which reason he began to have higher notions of virtue than others had, and he determined to renew and to change the opinion of all men. And it happened then to have concerned the Most High, for he was the first that ventured to publish this notion, that there was but one power, the creator of the universe, Ahaya, the Most High, and that as to other gods, if they contributed anything to the happiness of men, that each of them afforded it only according to his appointment, and not by their own power. This his opinion was derived from the irregular phenomena that were visible both at land and sea, as well as those that happened to the sun and moon and all the heavenly bodies. So he if said so if these bodies, said he, had power over their own, they would certainly take care of their own regular motions. He talked about the sun and the moon and planets and all that. But since they do not preserve such regularity, they make it plain that in so far as they cooperate to our advantage, they work for us. They do it not for their own abilities, but as they are subservient to him that commands them, to whom alone we ought justly to offer our honor and thanksgiving, for which doctrines, when the Chaldeans and other people of Mesopotamia raised a tumult against him, he thought it right to leave that country and to command, and by the assistance of the Most High, he came and lived in the land of Canaan. And when he was there settled, he built an altar and performed a sacrifice to the Most High. Berosos mentions our father Abram without naming him. When he says this, in the 10th generation after the flood, there was among the Chaldeans a man righteous and great and skillful in the celestial science. But Hectus does more than barely mention him, for he is composed and left behind him a book concerning him. And Nicholas of Damascus, in the 4th book of his history, says this: Abram ruled at Damascus, being a foreigner, who came with an army out of the land above Babylon, called the land of the Chaldeans, but after a long time he got up and removed from the country, also with his people, and went in the land, then called the land of Canaan, but now the land of Judea. And this, when his posterity were become a multitude, as to which prosperity of his we relate their history in another work. Now the name of Abram is even still famous, renowned in the country of Damascus, and there is shown a village named from him, the habitation of Abram. All right. Um, it says, for whereas the Egyptians were formerly addicted to different customs, different laws and traditions, and despised one another's sacred and accustomed rites, and were very angry one with another on the reason, Abram conferred with each of them, and confuting the reasonings they made use of every one of their own practices, or religions demonstrated that such reasonings were vain and void of truth, whereupon he was admired by them in those conferences as a very wise man and one of great sagacity. When he discovered on any subject, or I'm sorry, discourse, talked, communicated on any subject, he undertook, and this not only in understanding it, but in persuading other men also to assent to him. He communicated to them arithmetic and delivered to them the science of astronomy. For before Abram came into Egypt, they were unacquainted, they were not familiar with those parts of learning. For that science came from the Chaldeans, right, into Egypt, Mizraim, and from thence, from Egypt, there to the Greeks also. All right. As soon as Abram was come back into Canaan, he parted the land between him and Lot, and upon account of the tumultuous behavior of their shepherds, and concerning the pastures wherein they should feed their flocks. However, he gave Lot his option or leave to choose which lands he would take, and he took himself what the other left, which were the lower grounds to the foot of the mountains. And he himself lived in Hebron, which is a city 7 years more ancient than Tanis of Egypt. But Lot possessed the land of the plain and the river Jordan, not far from the city of Sodom, which was then a fine city, but is now destroyed by the will of the Most High, and I'm sorry, the will and the wrath of the Most High, and the reason of which I shall show in its proper place hereafter. Right. All right. All right. So I'm gonna skip and go to that real quick. It says how God overthrew the nation of the Sodomites out of his wrath against them for their sins. About this time, the Sodomites grew proud. They were what? Proud. They were outside doing whatever they wanted to do. All right. And on account of their riches and great wealth, so the Sodomites have great wealth. Wouldn't you know? Right? They still got great wealth today, but it ain't going to save them for the fire. It says, and they became unjust. They became what? Unjust, unrighteous towards men, and impious towards the Most High. Disrespectful. They didn't care. You made me to love a woman, but I love a man. Or a woman. You made me love a man, but I love a woman. Right? So they became impious, disrespectful towards the Most High, and so much that they did not call to mind the advantages they received from him, the Most High. They hated strangers. They hated strangers, foreigners, and abused themselves with sodomitical practices. Okay. The Most High was therefore much displeased at them and determined to punish them for their pride and to overthrow their city, wherever they lived now, and to lay waste, that means ruin, destroy their country, until there should neither plant nor fruit grow out of it. When the Most High Power had then resolved concerning the Sodomites? Abraham, as he sat by the oak of Mamre at the door of his tent, saw three angels. And thinking them to be strangers, he rose up and saluted them, and desired they would accept of an entertainment, and to live with him, or to stay with him. To which, when they agreed, he ordered cakes of meal to be made presently. And when he had killed a calf, he roasted it and brought it to them. And they sat under the oak. Now they made a show of eating, and besides, they asked him about his wife Sarah, where she was. And when he said she was within, they said they would come again, now and after, and find her become a mother when they come back. And upon which the woman laughed and said that it was impossible she should bear children, since she was 90 years of age, and her husband was 100. Then they concealed themselves no longer, but declared that they were angels, messengers of Ahiah, the Most High, and that one of them was sent, called to inform, to report them about the child, and to and two of the overthrow of Sodom. When Abram heard this, he was grieved for the Sodomites, and he rose up and asked the Most High for them, for the Sodomites, and entreated him that he would not destroy them. He asked the Most High, don't destroy them, and the righteous with the wicked. And when the Most High Power had replied that there was no good man among the Sodomites, there's no good man or woman among the Sodomites, for if there were but 10 such men among them, or women, he would not punish any of them for their sins. Abraham held his peace, he kept quiet then. And the angels came to the city of the Sodomites, and Lot asked them to accept of a lodging and sleeping with him. For he was a very generous and hospitable man, and one that had learned to imitate the goodness of Abraham. Now, when the Sodomites saw the young man to be of a beautiful face, and this to an extraordinary degree, they were beautiful to an extraordinary degree, and that they took up their lodgings with Lot, and they answered themselves to enjoy these beautiful boys by force and violence. And when Lot encouraged them to sobriety, to saneness, and not to offer anything immodest to the strangers, but to have regard to their lodging in his house, and promised that if their inclinations, their thoughts could not be governed, ruled, he would expose his daughters to their desires instead of these strangers, and neither thus were they made ashamed. And even that didn't make them ashamed. But the Most High was much displeased at their impudent behavior, the disrespectful behavior, so that he both smote those men with blindness, he hit them with blindness, and condemned the Sodomites to universal destruction. But Lot, upon God's informing him of the future destruction of the Sodomites, went away, taking with him his wife and daughters, who were two, and still virgins, for those that were betrothed, engaged to them, were above the thoughts of going. Oh, those that were engaged to them were above the thoughts of going, leaving, and deemed that Lot's words were trifling. The Most High then cast a thunderbolt upon the city and set it on fire with its population, its inhabitants, and laid waste, ruined the country with the like burning, the same burning, as I formerly said when I wrote the Jewish war. But Lot's wife continually turning back to view the city as she went from it, and being too nicely inquisitive what would become of it, although the Most High had forbidden her so the dew was changed into a pillar of salt. For I've seen it, and it remains at this day. It remains at this day. Now he and his daughters fled to a certain small place, encompassed with the fire, and settled in it. And it is to this day called Zoar, for that is the word which the Hebrew used for a small thing. All right, all right. Mm-hmm. So there's some good stuff on Abram. Um, I also will touch on Eber real quick. I think it's some importance here. Um, Selah was the son of Arphaxad, and his son was Heber, from whom they originally called the Jews, the Israelites, Hebrews. All right, let's read this note. It says that the Jews, the Israelites, were called Hebrews. From this, their progenitor, Heber. All right, the father, Heber. Ar- Arthur Josephus here rightly affirms, and not from Abram the Hebrew, or passenger over Euphrates, as many of the moderns suppose. Shem is also called the father of all the children of Heber, okay, or uh, all the Hebrews. In a history long before Abram passed over Euphrates, Genesis 10:21. Though it must be confessed that Genesis 14:13, where the original says they told Abram the Hebrew, and the Septuagint renders it the passenger, Piratus. But this is spoken only of Abraham himself, who had then lately passed over Euphrates, and is another signification of the Hebrew word, taken as an appellative and not as a proper name. All right. So Abram the Hebrew, or passenger over Euphrates. And Shem is also called the father of the children of Heber, or of all the Hebrews. All right. Heber begat Joktan, and Peleg, he was called Peleg because he was born at the dispersion of the nations to their several countries. For Peleg